You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Testudo Times. I'm Brennan Weissel.
Sam Jane.
Michael Howes, and we also got two other guests this week.
That's right. I'm Emmett Siegel.
I'm Andrew Chodes.
Wow, you guys had that rehearsed better than any guest. It might be a coincidence that you
I spent the whole day just waiting for that moment.
I've been on the edge of my seat for this podcast. Like literally, I was like, can't wait.
Wow.
Hey, you guys mentioned it at the end of your other episode, so I knew you guys were very excited.
That is true.
Exactly.
Look at Brendan weaseling his way in to make sure he lets it known that you should listen to Testudo Talk. That's a good plug right there. And we're excited for this episode with these boys. Tons of Maryland sports news. We figured that it's probably best just to do a recap episode, kind of everything that's gone down in the major sports, get Emmett and Andrew's opinion. Obviously, they cover both football and men's basketball, where a lot of the news has been. And we're just going to kind of talk it through with them, get a little crossover episode going, and play some fun games at the end to kind of test their Maryland knowledge. So, guys, I think, where we can start is a sport that's kind of on its way out of the season, but seems like they've been in the news more this past week than they have been all year, and that's the football program. First piece of news, obviously, going down to Nashville to play in the bowl game against Auburn. Emmett, I know you now and Andrew, you guys both get to go to Nashville for work, which is pretty exciting. But other than that, what was your reaction to the Terps taking on the Tigers?
Well, it all kind of came together at the last minute with the way that the conference championships worked out. We were pretty sure that Nashville might have been one step too high for Maryland, but the way that everything played out with Alabama getting in the playoff and that opening up some different at-large bids kind of moved every Big Ten team up one notch. So Maryland was able to get into the Music City Bowl, which is a pretty good bowl game. Auburn isn't like the best team, but it's a name brand. It's an SEC opponent. It's in a cool location. So my personal reaction was that even though we've talked about the Maryland season and expressed our disappointments and stuff, they still finished 7-5, and you get to go to a pretty good bowl game. And I think, I was pretty pleased with the destination, selfishness aside, getting to go to Nashville being really fun. Just like the bowl game and the experience and the ability for fans to get there, I was, pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, selfishly speaking, I was so excited when I heard it was the Music City Bowl, to be honest with you guys. But yeah, just like what Emmett said, I think there was a pretty widespread expectation that Maryland was going to be probably in the Las Vegas Bowl, maybe in Phoenix or Detroit, and then once Florida State got kicked out, Alabama made the playoffs. Kind of that whole late night switch. I know the team was definitely keen on going to Vegas. Some players have told us that, and then kind of they thought it might be Tampa, and then kind of all the ball kept on rolling. It ended up being Nashville. The Music City Bowl. It's a good bowl for them against an SEC team. Obviously, Auburn didn't have the greatest year, but still, it's a name brand. Should have a pretty good fan base there in Maryland. Traveling down to Nashville, so it's a really good opportunity for the Terps. Obviously, the season as a whole, some disappointment. Obviously, losing those big games to Ohio State and Michigan, but I think overall you have to be pretty pleased with the destination.
And, kind of not just losing those big games, but also today, recent news, losing Jayshawn Barham for the foreseeable future now, entering the transfer portal. Kind of, what are your guys' thoughts on that transfer today and the news that came about?
And the other ones, too. I mean, Corey Dyche, Rico Walker, a bunch of guys entered the portal. What do you know about the situation? What can you tell us? And what does it mean for the future, like Mike said?
Andrew, you want to start?
Sure. I think obviously the Jayshawn Barham one is a huge loss. Obviously a really highly touted recruit. He was one of the best freshman defenders really in the country in his first year, and obviously a huge part of that defense. But in the current landscape of college football, right, it's very hard. You have to re-recruit players every single year, and it's a tremendous loss for the defense. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. Obviously, Tarheeb still also just declared for the draft, so you're losing another cornerstone piece there. Dante Trader, his status is really still up in the air. You mentioned obviously the Corey Dyche one, obviously a huge piece on the offense, starting tight end there. And then, one of the heirs, maybe his position in Rico Walker also goes to the portal. So 3 really big losses. Barham, I think obviously is the biggest one. I know that some of his teammates were definitely a little thrown off by the Barham decision. Definitely looks like it was more of an NIL decision. He thinks he has, and he knows he has a huge financial opportunity at a different school, but it's a huge loss to the Terps, and I'm intrigued to see how they are going to try to replace him.
Yeah, Maryland, now that's 3 straight recruiting classes where their number 1 recruit has left. So it went Chop Robinson, then Barham and Rico Walker. So it's a concerning trend, but like Andrew said, you kind of have to adapt to that new style of college sports where guys can kind of come and go as they please. NIL is obviously a factor. Most of Maryland's NILs on the offensive side of the ball, so it's hard to keep those defensive guys around. And a guy like Barham obviously has potential NFL future, so he wants to go and cash in somewhere. And that's not to say it's just NIL, but it's certainly a factor. And then also guys on defense. You mentioned Tarheeb still. I expect Bo Braid to go to the NFL draft as well. Gavin Gibson's in the transfer portal, so you're looking at potentially having to replace a couple key pieces. That's just kind of what you have to do every year. They'll get guys in the transfer portal. They'll lose guys to the transfer portal. It's more about seeing where they end up than where they are right now, because it just opened today. But even so, it's a little bit concerning to see the way it's attacked Maryland, maybe a school that doesn't have the depth to replenish as easily as some of these other schools that are losing guys as well.
Yeah, no, and I think the depth, I think there is a huge word when you mentioned Maryland right now, and this might change in the very distant future, but right now they don't have the funds ultimately to keep a lot of these guys around. And you mentioned Gavin Gibson, you mentioned Corey Coley, so that's 2 defensive backs, and then Barham's departure, obviously. So you're losing a lot of guys who had roles on the team this year, and it's going to be really difficult to replace them on the back end. But we'll see what Mike Locks is able to do in the portal, because you lose people, you still get people, and then obviously in the recruiting class. But it has not been a friendly couple of days for the Terps.
Have you guys seen, I know it's very early, but also many players are leaving from other schools. Have you seen any people, looking at Maryland? I know like Michael Van Buren decommitted from Oregon, people like that. Have you heard of any other players that you think Maryland should go out and try to get, or anything on that front yet?
I mean, you can take it.
Yeah, it's a little early because guys are still entering the portal, and Maryland doesn't even know, what spots are going to be open. On the Van Buren front, I'd expect that ship has kind of sailed a little bit. I'm not sure Maryland's really going to follow up on him too much, but in terms of transfers, I know it's been widely reported that MJ Morris, who's the NC State quarterback, is getting looks from Maryland. That's the kind of guy that I would expect them to look to replace Talia. I mean, they got a couple of guys, in-house, Billy Edwards and Cam Edge and such, but it seems like they're definitely looking for a, maybe like a plug and play guy like you got with Talia that maybe you can bring in from a different program, a little bit more seasoned, maybe a little bit more potential and a little bit more ability to have success right away that maybe they're looking at. But at the quarterback position in, the transfer portal, that's an expensive position. So, you're going to have to buck up some money for it. You're going to have to find the right guy who fits your system. So it's kind of just a wait and see, kind of a holding pattern at the moment.
Yeah, it's really early. I mean, the portal just opened today. I mean, there's already, I think it was 500 people, which is crazy. I'm already in the portal, but it's really a waiting game. I mean, the quarterback position obviously is paramount right now for Maryland, but like Emmett said, I know Matt Rule said, I think Nebraska's coach said a good quarterback can cost up to $2 million. So definitely a lot of time here, and a lot's going to happen in the next few weeks, the next few months, but Maryland definitely does need to replace and get a pretty big name at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I know you guys did an NIL episode, but Maryland doesn't have the $2 million to spend on a quarterback. So you're going to have to find someone that kind of fits that and your system.
Yeah, no, and I think that needs to be made really, really clear to listeners who think, oh, like Maryland is so far behind in the football NIL game where they are in the Big Ten. Like,
and the basketball NIL game
basketball NIL game, but I don't talk specifically about football. But yeah, they are very, very, very far behind right now if they want to compete in the Big Ten.
I guess one of the questions that I had was, now that's 3 years. I mean, you talked about it with the top recruiting classes, and Loxley always talks, when I listen or if I'm at midweek availability, about how he only is going to go after players in the portal who, showed interest in Maryland at first, or, didn't turn them down right away. Do they really have that luxury anymore at this point of picking and choosing guys who are committed to play for Maryland? Because it seems to where they're getting these, their top players, and it's not like other teams, right? Where, Michigan might lose a talented defensive back, but they're buried on the depth chart, and it's like they can work their way up. You're losing probably your best defensive player, and then maybe arguably your best offensive player that could have returned in Deichus. And then last year, CJ just transfers out of Maryland too. So do you think they have that ability to kind of pick and choose in the portal, or should they just become kind of portal bandits and really, take who they can that they think is talented enough to play here?
I think it all kind of plays into the same situation where, like, with NIL, you need to be like the portal teams that you're seeing, like, USC a couple years ago and stuff like that, where they're just able to get anyone they want. You need to have the money to be able to back that up, because that is going to be, top of the line conversation. Maryland should, be able to compromise on some of these guys, because like you said, Maryland isn't necessarily a program that can afford to lose too many top line guys. I mean, I had some people responding to me when I put out that Jay-Sean Barham was leaving on Twitter, respond to me saying it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it won't affect the defense all too much, but when you have a program like Maryland losing maybe your most talented defensive player, Maryland can't really recover from that the same way that other schools can. So I think, like you said, Maryland can't really afford to be too picky. But what Maryland does have the advantage of is that, being where it's from, you have a lot of guys that went to other schools out of high school and then re-enter the portal once they're in college. And then you kind of already have that line of communication, and they're kind of able to, like a guy like Caden Prather, say, kind of reestablish that communication line and, maybe get a little bit of an inside job on the transfer once they're in college already.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention Caden Prather specifically as well. I mean, that was a home run hit for Mike Loxley. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Maryland right now, where they are, it's more about, you can't really pick and choose. If you look at Maryland's 2023 recruiting class, they have, I think it's something along the lines of 15 3-stars and 2 4-stars. And in the transfer portal last, it was a bunch of 3-stars. So that's kind of what Loxley's going for. You're not going to be able to afford or get all these top guys, but it's just kind of building with all these, solid to really good guys. And that's kind of the way I think Maryland's looking to be built at this moment.
It's also worth pointing out the comparative value of, say, a 3-star transfer versus a 3-star high school player, where, high school players are, the 5 and 4 stars tend to pan out at a much higher rate than the 3 stars or the 2 stars or non-rated guys. But even so, it's still a little bit of a crapshoot, while some of the transfers, you have a little bit of a higher hit rate. So once you've established that line of communication, like I said, you don't necessarily have your pick of the litter, but you do have a little bit more ability to discern who's actually going to be an impact player versus who you're kind of just taking a flyer on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think, like, to mention too, is that then with those guys, you also come with the knowledge that they might not develop into anything that they, like any type of player that they haven't already been, right? Like, you bring in a Caden Prather and he's, an extreme example because he's been good, but you could point to, different wide receiver who comes in here and just never really kind of blossoms. Versus you take a 3-star.
Are you talking about Tyrese Chambers?
Yeah.
Was that a Chambers reference there?
Or are you talking about Jacob Copeland, maybe?
That's why I kind of
the list could maybe go on and on. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So I think that's important to mention as well. And then the place that they've struggled the most, and we can move on after this, is the offensive line, I think. And you're not getting good portal players that are offensive linemen, like Colorado. I mean, we've talked about it before. You're not going to be able to develop transfer portal offensive linemen because it takes 3 or 4 years for them to be NCAA ready.
And and back to this past year's transfer cycle, and that's what Loxley tried to do. He kind of just tried to bring in a bunch of linemen from the portal. He brought in Gotti. He brought in Mike Purcell. He brought in Doomerville. So it's kind of the plan which he's going for right now. I mean, if you kind of look at Maryland's transfer class from last year, it actually ended up panning out pretty well. You had guys who put in pretty good minutes. Donnell Brown, obviously, I think Emmett would agree, was probably the biggest hit of the transfer class. Donald Brown
on defense, at least.
Yeah, and then Caden Prather on offense was Maryland's best receiver, probably in my opinion. So you got 2 really good, valuable guys from the portal. But again, I mean, they lost 22 guys in the portal, and that's kind of the world that's where Maryland is right now. Where they are in the Big Ten, you're gonna lose guys every single year. That's not going to change.
Well, Sam, I'll go back to your point about the offensive linemen. We talk about quarterbacks, but offensive linemen are expensive because good offensive linemen, especially in college, are hard to find. So these top line offensive linemen, first, they're not really transferring as much because it's more of a developmental position and they tend to consolidate at certain schools. But also, like, they're hard to find for Maryland. I mean, we mentioned the transfers that Maryland brought in, but you lost Mason Lunsford in the portal, and you lost Colton Deary, who was going to step into a starting spot, and with some of those guys gone to the NFL. So it's hard to hold on to these, good offensive linemen. That's why it was so important that they were able to do it last year. This year, not as much, but they were still kind of able to piece it together. But offensive linemen are hard to find, and those are kind of the guys that you have to develop, like you said, out of high school, because it's hard to find an offensive lineman at the collegiate level that isn't coming up like Maryland guys did from FCS or D2. Established Division I offensive lineman is going to run you a lot of money, and especially for Maryland that needs a new quarterback, that's looking to replace some key guys on defense. I'm not sure that's a luxury they really can afford.
Yeah, and there's a reason why a third of Loxley's incoming freshman class is on the offensive line. He's aware it is a glaring need at the moment.
I guess kind of, flip into a team where we've also seen some losing, a different type of losing. The men's basketball team, they've had their struggles so far. You guys cover the beat, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess kind of what have your views and thoughts have been so far through this early season?
How much time do we have?
All you got.
You go first. Because I have to prepare to stay calm so you can go.
All right, I'll give kind of a level-headed one. It has been. This is my level-headed take. That's gone about as poorly as it possibly could have to start the season. Outside of losing, home games to teams that you paid to beat, it's gone about as poorly as it possibly could have. Going to Asheville and losing those 2 games, that's when you started to really know that, something was awry. The net rankings just came out. Maryland's in the 200s. They have a quad 4 loss. I think that UAB loss is a quad 4 loss now. And then the Villanova game, even though that's, an all right opponent, Villanova's not great, but still a terrible performance. And the Indiana game was just sloppy, classic Maryland road game in the Big Ten. It has not gone well at all. And, if you guys have looked at bracketology and control F and look for Maryland, nothing will come up because Maryland is currently playing itself out of the NCAA tournament, which would be pretty crazy. If Maryland misses the NCAA tournament this year, that would be not just a disaster, a mega disaster for year 2 under Kevin Willard. So Maryland really needs to pick it up. You got a big game on Wednesday against Penn State. If they don't win that, then it's a 5-alarm fire, sound the alarms. Everything is burning down because, as it stands right now, Maryland, has to play itself back into the conversation, which is not something that a program like Maryland should be saying only 8 games into the season or 9 games.
Yeah, and if you look at what happened last year, right, as a whole, obviously, you can say Kevin Willard almost brought the energy back to College Park a little bit, right? You bring them back to the NCAA tournament, you go 16-1 at home, and it's only 8 games into the season, which I think has to be remembered. That it's 8 games into the season, but right now the team they're not able to score the basketball, which is very important. You need to score the basketball in order to win games. And then it's the road struggles have continued from last year, but they seem almost worse. Maryland, they've won 20 of their last 21 home games, but they've also won only one of their last 14 games away from home, right? So it doesn't make much sense. But I think what's more concerning is that the 2 games that they've had against decent opponents in Indiana and Villanova, they've looked so awful, defensively, offensively. The second half, provided they played all right defensively against both those teams, but they put up really just embarrassing performances. And this is a year in which they're supposed to improve and kind of they had expectations. Can you live up to them? And they haven't even come close to that so far. Very intrigued to see what happens as we get into the thick part of Big Ten play. Because if Maryland can have some success there, obviously the entire season, the story of that is completely different. But so far it's really bad. I think the timing of Asheville hurt them, and then the 2 losses set them back so far, and they need to get things changed and get them changed really quickly, or it's going to be a really long season. And I don't think anyone wants any fans want to see Maryland in the NIT, and that's where they're headed for right now.
You mentioned fans, so I'll keep it right there. Do you think fans are going to show up to the Penn State game?
Yes.
First Big Ten game, but
yes,
do you think people have been paying attention that much?
Yes,
Students are going to show up.
I am confident it'll be a good crowd for the game.
It'll be an all right crowd. It's a Wednesday night, so
the
students will show up because free shirts and it's a conference opponent and everything. But I'm old enough to remember a year being a student when Maryland didn't make the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And by the end of that year, even, by January of that year, it wasn't really that cool to go to the games anymore. So I'm certainly worried that is where the season is heading. Now they still have a lot of time to figure it out, but it certainly seems like they're on to their last straw already as far as fan buy-in.
I'll play the optimist here when it comes to fans. They still are, provided they've played 4 quad 4 opponents, they still are undefeated at home.
I hope so.
So they have a quad 4 loss against UAB. So, but I mean, if they're winning at home, I think fans will show up. But yeah, you can't be 4-4 if you're Maryland basketball. I mean,
there's no Kim English has shown up to Xfinity Center yet this year.
Well said. I mean, if they keep winning at home, then maybe it's a different story, but I don't know how likely that is. Speaking specifically for the Penn State game, I know starting lineups have changed a bit, and Kevin Ruther was talking about maybe not starting Dante Scott, maybe insinuating something like that. Do you guys have any thoughts on starting 5 on Wednesday?
Well, I thought what Willard said was, I thought it was crazy. I mean, you covered him last year, but did he ever call the guys out like that, like what he did after the Indiana game?
Not really. He made some tweaks here or there to the starting lineup. Ian Martinez got a start over Don Carey when he was struggling, but never really called anyone out. They were playing kind of the same amount of minutes anyway. Yeah. So it's like, it was a little bit surprising to see that, especially for a guy that, just a couple weeks ago, he's talking about how he's going to have a breakout year and everything.
Yeah. No, yeah. For reference, for those listening and don't know exactly what he said multiple things of how, one was he don't be surprised if he makes quote major changes to the lineup, but he full on said is, I don't care if I have a freshman going out there and taking shots, but right now we have some 4th and 5th year seniors that are doing things that make me think, what are we doing? That is to call out without saying it, to call out Dante Scott without calling by name. That is, you're saying something there, and you're trying to light a fire up that guy's ass, to be frank, right? And I mean, it's a guy who's, he's Dante Scott's been here through a season which they didn't make the NCAA tournament. He's been here in a season which they won the Big Ten title. He's been here through positives and negatives, and he needs to step up big time. And Willard calling him out in the public light, that's something.
My concern would be that he says he's okay with not necessarily okay, but he's more understanding of the freshmen making mistakes. Yeah. My concern would be that he just replaces Dante Scott with a guy like Jamie Kaiser, who hasn't necessarily shown to be super comfortable. And then you kind of just have the same thing going on, but with a different piece in there. I think he's just kind of looking to press any button he can, because right now, like we said, there's a lot of negativity, and he's just looking for any sort of spark to kind of get the team on the right track. And then, like we saw last year with their 8-0 start, you win one game, then it can lead to another, and then it kind of starts to domino. And then all of a sudden, no one remembers that you started the season slow because you're in a good position come, January, February.
Yeah, no, to circle back to your question, Brendan, what I think the lineup is going to look like against Penn State, because he mentioned how he liked the intensity of this lineup. It's probably going to be Jameer Young, Deshaun Howard-Smith, Jamie Kaiser in favor of Dante Scott, Jordan Geronimo, and Julian Reese.
You bring up those freshmen. I'm kind of curious how you guys evaluate them so far, because you bring up them making mistakes early, but huge thoughts of them coming into this season. But so far it's been a little, a little underwhelming. DHS, he's averaging about 29 minutes per game. He's only scored in double figures twice. And then Jamie Kaiser, he's averaging only 3.3 points per game, shooting 18% from 3. Kind of, what are you guys seeing there?
Okay. I'm not as concerned with the freshmen as some other people are. I think it's a little bit of byproduct of kind of how the offense is running as a whole. Deshaun Howard-Smith, well, I mean, I know Emmett was talking with me about this earlier. He wasn't really a shooter in high school. I mean, he wasn't a shooter at all. That's not his game. And he resorted to that a lot during the Asheville tournament, was taking a bunch of threes, wasn't making them. So I think once he gets it into his mind that once he is able to get back to his game, I think he'll be in a fine place. And for Jamie Kaiser, I mean, if you've seen the guy in high school, even in practice, I mean, he was recruited to be a lights out shooter. That's what he is. Right now, he's struggling mightily from there. But again, I still think it's a byproduct of the offense as a whole. I think he'll be fine. I do think it's a matter of confidence. I think Emmett's probably going to disagree with that a little bit, but I'm not overly concerned with the freshman.
So yeah, my take on it is that Deshaun Harris-Smith has never been a good outside shooter. Maybe that'll be something he develops at some point. I know he wants to play in the NBA like everyone else does, but he's a guy that at least has the physical tools to make that happen. What he needs to do is he needs to develop that at some point, and he's not there yet. That's not just going to come along. So, his 3-point shot is not surprising that it hasn't been good. The problem is, this is where I agree with you, Andrew, that it is kind of a byproduct of the offense because nobody on Maryland's team right now can shoot the three reliably. So there's no reason for them to give him any way to get into the paint. So, if Deshaun Harris-Smith can't get into the paint, he's rendered a little bit obsolete, which is kind of what's happened so far. And with Jamie, Jamie is a great spot up shooter when he has time, confidence, all that. But he is still a freshman. He is, to be totally honest, a little bit of a one-dimensional player. His defense isn't great. Other than that, there's a lot of things being thrown at him at the same time. I had someone tell me that was at one of their practices that said, he's like, I'm there every day and I don't even know what the hell is going on sometimes. So I think whatever they're running is, very complex, especially for a freshman. I think Jamie has to settle in a little bit and they kind of have to play to his strengths a little bit more. So I am concerned, to be totally honest, about the freshman's production. Not necessarily that I expect it to be great right away, but because they're not necessarily getting the support from the rest of their team that makes me think that there's going to be a ton of improvement, at least in the near future, maybe later in the season. But as it stands right now, it's not really tailored to their strengths.
Yeah. And I think it can be a little, I think poor play, poor offense, poor shooting, it can be a little contagious. And I think in the opposite direction, I think when everything's going right, as we saw last year at home, it can be a little contagious, and on the road, it can be the exact same thing. And right now, the freshmen, they really haven't been able to get into a rhythm of sorts. And I think that's really hurt them. But again, it's only 8 games into the season. There's a lot of time for them to get into a rhythm, gain some confidence, but that needs to change pretty quickly because kind of in the larger scope of things. I mean, even though it's still their freshman year, I mean, you need to get them going. And I mean, to stunt their development, whether it's from losing as a whole, the offense being bad, that can have further impacts than just the immediate season. So there's a lot that Maryland needs to get right pretty quickly.
Emmett, you're a king, because I was just about to say, Andrew, that I think that we talk about DHS getting to his game, and me and Mike talked about it kind of in like our preview, and that was my concern, is that you can say, oh, he's got to get downhill and get to his game, but that's Jameer's game, right? That's Dante's game. That's pretty much everybody on the roster is a drive first player at this point. And the lack of spacing, and we talk about Kaiser, struggling with shooting. I think another thing that is important to mention is when I watched Jamie Kaiser in high school, and I'm not a scout or anything, it was a lot of standstill catch and shoots. It wasn't movement action. It wasn't, come off a flare screen, come off a double ball screen or double, off ball catch and fire off rhythm movement, like Chance Stevens, right? Like that's what he kind of was known for. Having a standstill shooter is a lot different than somebody who can shoot like off action and off movement. And you couple that with him being a freshman and freshmen tending to not shoot well. I think it's just kind of, I don't want to say it's roster malpractice because that might be too far, but I think it was a bit of misconstruction in terms of what type of transfers Willard brought in, what he did, because the lack of floor spacing, I think, was a big concern heading into the year. And obviously the worst case scenarios have happened, but I still think that was a concern and remains a concern. And I don't really know how you fix it, right? Like Dante Scott, taking him out of lineups might sound great. He's been a more consistent shooter than Kaiser. And I know it's early in the season, but at the end of the day, there's no, Don Carey or Kevin Herter coming off the bench later in the year. So,
well, I think that the Dante Scott potential move is just to piss him off more than anything else. I don't think
I'll play the same amount of minutes most likely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's more so just the practice of it. And that
yeah. No, and in regards to the roster, I think obviously the Hakeem Hart leaving hurts them exponentially. He's a dynamic guy offensively. I mean, Ian Martinez leaving literally in the final minutes of the transfer portal window. I think that was a shock to Willard and the staff, and I think that hurt them as a sixth scoring option, potentially a guy that would start. Chance Stevens, he wasn't going to have a ton of minutes, but he is a shooter. He's a guy that can score. Obviously, his long-term injury hurt them. But you're right. I think the way this roster is constructed maybe isn't the most conducive to scoring the basketball. And they need to figure out a way to do that ASAP.
Sam, I'll agree with you more unequivocally. I think Kevin Willard kind of botched the transfer portal in terms of the roster construction. Part of it's his control. Some of it is, like we said, and I don't want to keep using the NIL excuse because at a certain point, if you're the coach of Maryland, you got to, finish. But they went a little bit maybe too hard after some guys that weren't going to come to Maryland. The top options in the transfer portal weren't necessarily theirs to get. So you kind of had to find those diamonds in the rough, or at least maybe tailor a team that was more to your players' strengths. And it just feels like they've kind of assembled a little bit of the same roster as last year, just without the Don Carey type that you at least have to respect from three, even if he's not making them. It at least opens up the offense a little bit. Jordan Geronimo is, he's an athletic player. He provides good defense and all, but Hakeem Hart did that and was, great on offense. I would guess that if Willard had the opportunity to go back a couple months to the offseason and kind of do it all over again, he would not have built this thing the same way.
I think he just got kind of, and I don't know, but like from the outside looking in, I feel like he maybe got a little over and romanticized the idea of you're playing in the Big Ten, you have to be this big athletic team, right? Like at the end of the day, you're not going to out athletic or out big Purdue. You can have your own style, right? Like last year they were smaller, but they ran a lot and they played kind of the only press type of defense in the Big Ten. They were different. They had their own style. It feels like this year a little bit, they're just kind of resorting to, some of that's they just can't shoot, but maybe the plotting, we're going to out big you and out tough you that, I don't know, it hasn't worked so far. So we'll see. Long season ahead.
Long season ahead. I mean, and I guess the encouraging, if you will, there's not much encouraging. The defense is actually, the advanced numbers say the defense has actually been pretty good. A lot of the faults have been long shots, long rebounds, transition buckets. So it's the offense which is hurting them defensively right now. So it's if you can make shots, they'll be in an okay position, but they can't make shots right now, which is very concerning.
We're watching right now one of the early years Kevin Willard Seton Hall teams just in the Big Ten, and it's the same style, physical defense, not great shooting. Eventually as he kind of got it going at Seton Hall, he started to get better guards and. Some of those big men he developed really well. It shouldn't go without saying that Maryland losing its maybe not its top two assistants, but two of its top assistants was probably pretty important. Grant Billmeyer is an amazing, one of the best in the country developers of forwards. And then Tony Skinn is an ace recruiter. I don't know if we're going to talk about recruiting at all, but I don't know if you've looked at Maryland's recruiting class, but it's not exactly the cupboard is not exactly stocked right now for next year.
Yeah, is Derek Queen coming, or is that ship completely sailed now?
Hasn't completely sailed, but I will say that the longer it drags on, the less and less confident Maryland should be.
Correct.
I still I romanticize Gus Johnson with Miles Powell from New Jersey. Awesome call. I love me some Miles Powell. Bucket.
Miles Powell was great to watch.
Dog.
It would have been, I always think about this when Maryland hired Willard, just like the Mark Turgeon, Kevin Willard Final Four matchup of their two best teams at their respective schools that we got robbed of because of COVID.
Holy, yeah, that's
the world would look so different.
Yep, Turge would still be a terp, man.
Yep.
Don't even say that. It's not even funny.
I agree. That's not funny at all, Sam.
I don't think he did anything wrong.
I don't know. This might be
not morally.
Not morally, like some coaches in Maryland. Anyway, moving on.
So men's basketball, probably talk about that for a couple more years, but we don't have all the time in the world. So women's basketball, I know Mike and Sam have been covering it pretty closely. What have you guys seen? I know some injuries. I'll let you guys take it here, but how are we looking? How's Maryland looking?
What's going on with the team, Sam?
I guess watching a lot of these games, they start a lot the same. You look at the game against Green Bay, the game against Syracuse, the game just against George Mason. It's a lot of them starting out slow, and as the game kind of progresses, they find their groove, and then they build a sizable lead, and they hold on to it into the fourth quarter. So I think for them, the key is just being able to maintain one style of play, have it stick, and get off to a good start. But it's been a lot of come from behind wins, and then the games where they do actually start strong has been the Washington States, the UConns, the South Carolinas, and they start strong and then they kind of falter off at the end. So they gotta find that medium there where they just have a good start and then finish. But there are also some injuries going on right now. Sam, if you want to kind of
Yeah.
detail what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. The injury bug just decided to catch the women's team. Emma Chardon done for the year, ACL. She tore a meniscus last year, out. Tore ACL this year, out. Pretty heartbreaking stuff. She does get to. Shy and Sellers told me that she gets to go home. She's from Switzerland, so she gets to go home a little early for Christmas break, which is a positive, or winter break. But other than that, not much good there. And then Bree McDaniel. Mike, you weren't at the game, but like you saw the injury on TV, and it was in person, and that was probably the most wrong I've ever been about what I thought an injury might be versus like the reality of it, because like she was sobbing. She couldn't put any weight on any of her legs. Like they had to pretty much carry her off the floor, and she went straight to the locker room. And I don't like to speculate or anything like that, but you kind of are like, wow, like that was pretty gruesome. Like that looked not great. And then she was back on the bench in the fourth quarter. And then today I was told that she was day to day. So not a ton of updates other than that, but it doesn't sound like it's anything that's going to be super serious, super season ending type stuff. So that's huge news for them. And then Lavender Briggs is out with a back injury. They think they might get her back around the holidays. So she's rehabbing. So yeah, a lot of injuries there. In terms of the team, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know. Like with the men's team, I think I kind of have a gauge on, yeah, their offense stinks. You know, it's going to take some time for them to get it together, maybe. The women's team, it's like the pieces are there. I see the vision. You know, I see what Brenda was trying to do with the roster. You kind of can tell, like, okay, here's how they should play. And when they do it, it looks good. But it's like just they're not hitting on all cylinders. There were so many turnovers in the first half of the George Mason game. They still don't have Eliza Pinzon was not great. Like Andrew knows, she covered the team last year, wasn't a great like scorer or anything like that. She was at least a steadying hand at point guard, and they didn't even consider bringing in that type of player like as a backup for Shy. And I think they're paying the price now. They're having to rely on Bree to secondary ball handle. Riley Nelson isn't getting minutes, isn't ready. You know, so I think that it's just they have a little bit of a time gap here, Northwestern on Sunday, Brendan. But I mean, from an outsider's perspective, how encouraging do you think these two wins are? You know, George Mason's a good team. Like they were 7-0. They look good. And then they beat Green Bay, who's top 45 in net, I think, for women's basketball. So still a solid win. What do you make of, you know, their past couple of weeks?
It's hard to know. I mean, I think the starting Big Ten play on the 10th will show us a lot more, but the injuries have to really scare you, right? I mean, this roster wasn't very deep to begin the season, right? And then having these injuries, you know, starting at this time, I don't think it's a very good sign, especially because this was a team you guys talked about. And, you know, all I know is a lot of what I've heard from you. And you guys said it's going to take this team a while to kind of get into form, and having those injuries at this point in the season and you know, not being able to kind of gel as a team and that type of stuff early in the season. And, you know, Big Ten play starts on Sunday. So I think that's a bigger game than people realize. And people maybe wouldn't have really circled that game at the beginning of the season, but I think that game will matter. Emmett, Andrew, any thoughts on women's basketball as of this point?
Andrew, I have a quick question for you because, you know, you cover the team. You probably have a better memory than I do. But if my memory serves me correctly, wasn't it last year against George Mason that Diamond Miller had an injury scare and then turned out to be fine?
It was the first game of the season too, right?
Yeah. So what's going on with George Mason and like almost severely injuring Maryland's players? What's going on?
Funny story. There was a crowd guy right by me who stood up at the end of the George Mason game and was screaming obscenities at the George Mason players, saying they were trying to hurt Maryland So Emmett,
the rivalry runs deep.
Emmett, did you look like a 50-year-old middle-aged white man on Sunday? Was that you in disguise?
Watching the men's team has probably made me look about 50 years old.
That's honestly so true. Wait, Sam and Mike, I have a question about the women's team. Actually, I have a few questions. Number one, why is Riley Nelson not playing? That's one. Two, this is more for Sam. Compared to last year, I know at this time of the year, much different team. They had Diamond Miller and Abby Myers, but it was kind of mid-December when things kind of started to change. They found their groove on and off the court. Do you sense something like that happening after a few tough losses? They can kind of recover and they have the talent to do so?
I guess I can take the first one. I mean, it all just comes down to her being a freshman. It's pretty well known now that Brenda Fries does not like to play her freshmen. But the one thing about
Emily Fisher got 30 minutes yesterday though.
Riley Nelson got 33 against Green Bay. So she has been getting minutes in some games. She got 33 against Green Bay. She scored 15 points against Niagara. It's just about consistency with her. She has to, be able to be consistent in those minutes that she's getting.
Talk to him, Big Mike.
Yeah, I just got
On the Zoom for all the listeners, Sam was just flexing his muscles in the library.
Yeah, I just got
Yep, he was flexing on Andrew. But yeah, I agree with Mike. And Emily Fisher has been impressive. And I think Riley will get more as the season goes on. I think she'll kind of settle into some sort of role, but the game just seems to be going a little too fast. And then the second question, it's actually kind of hilarious because Brenda keeps prompted saying, well, you can't compare this year's team to last, which I think is a pretty clear indicator that she maybe doesn't have as high expectations for this team as last year's team, which is fair. I mean, they had two top WNBA picks. I think I could see them catching a groove. I was wrong before the year in that I thought that they would have a much better shooting team, and that really hasn't paid off. Jakia hasn't shot it well. She has not been an Abby Myers level impact transfer, to settle our debate with Mike on Twitter. And
that's crazy.
Shy has shot it better than last year, but still not kind of taking.
I'm pretty sure she's the second leading scorer on the team right now.
Mike, Abby Myers was literally she was one of the best scorers in the Big Ten.
Mike, when you play 40 minutes almost, yeah. I mean,
my argument was coming from the fact that I thought she was going to jump in and be one of the top scorers for the team. I was in no way saying she was going to be a first round draft pick, but
yeah, I think it's just going to take. I don't think they're going to ever get to the peak of what they did last year, but I think unlike the men's team, they're going to be a tournament team. That's I hope so. I think they'll get a top 5 seed. They'll settle in Big Ten play, and they'll kind of go from there. I think one player that Bree McDaniel needs to stay in the starting lineup. If she's healthy, I don't know who you have to move out, what it may be. She has to keep starting. She is this team's right now second best player. She's their best perimeter defender. She's their best secondary ball handler. She's emerging as a shooter. You have to keep her in the lineup. She's such a good connector. She does so many different things well. Fries, I think, will, and I think that's something that as the season goes on, she's going to keep getting more and more comfortable and making a bigger impact.
I know last year, I know at times Brenda was almost settled down a little bit. She's almost going too fast. Has Bree kind of been able to hound it on that and kind of slow her game a little bit?
Well, I tweeted yesterday that she hadn't, because she was turning it over a lot against George Mason. But I think you're right, Andrew. I think she definitely has, and I think they're playing her more out of ball screens, which I didn't think was going to happen this year. But they kind of have been forced to because they don't have that secondary option. So I like what I've seen from her. I think she's gonna keep going, and I think the women's team will be okay. And I think their record will improve here as we go on. But that's kind of all she wrote is they have a week break here in between actions. So that's all the big sports that we talked about. So, that would wrap up our normal segment, but guys, we got to play some games here. We got some action for you. We're going to start with the easiest one. Okay. So this is called Talia or not. So I'm going to ask you some questions on Maryland football, and you're gonna say if it was Talia or wasn't Talia. Okay.
I'm gonna get all these wrongs get canceled by the Testudo Times commenters.
Okay.
Talia Non is gonna come for you.
All right. Has Talia put up the most pass attempts in Maryland history?
Do I really buzz in?
Just give it. Just both of you give your answers.
Has he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with yes as well.
John Callio in 1992. So has not put up the most passes in a single season. Highest completion percentage for a whole career. So this goes over the players' careers. Talia or not?
That is Talia, because
I know he has the completions record. I think he also has the
he
percentage
does.
record.
Because yes, he does.
All right, boys. 1 for 2. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. First touchdown pass was to Jake Funk. Talia or not. Bonus points if you remember the game that Jake Funk received this touchdown if it was Talia.
First career touchdown pass for Talia. I'm racking my brain from the COVID year.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too.
So they lost Northwestern. They didn't score a touchdown in that game, I don't think. I think they only scored 3 points.
I have my guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna say yes against
I
Minnesota.
think it was against Minnesota.
Oh, what the? Oh, you copied me.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was to Jake Funk. That seems like a really random.
Yeah.
Like, I know he was on that team and he was pretty good for them. So I'm just going to say you didn't make that up.
I'm gonna say yes, Minnesota.
2 for 3.
I think points
Let's
all
go.
around.
Show us,
That
Let's
works.
show us
go.
your Google search history.
Let's go. Let's
Show
go.
us the search history.
I think
I
it's-
watched the Minnesota game. We weren't allowed in the stadium.
That was
Mike.
no-
Mike,
because
I'm
of
tracking
COVID.
their eyes. They're all set.
that wasn't
Wait,
a
I
lot.
watched it from a garage. I watched it from Union Lane garage. I could only see about 60 yards
Was the Minnesota game the one where Minnesota missed the extra point?
Yes.
in double over or single or double overtime. They
him.
missed an extra point.
Emma,
I'm
you better watch out. Lincoln Riley's going to revoke your credentials.
I got no credentials left to revoke.
Also
And
true.
bonus points to any listener who knows what I'm talking about. All right. Has the highest amount of yards in a single game, Talia or not?
Like total offense.
Passing yards, sorry.
I'm gonna say no.
I don't think so. I can't. I'm trying to think of time he got over 400 yards, and I can't off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Both of you
Yeah.
going no?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
agree with Andrew.
All right. Well done.
Can you guess who it is?
Yeah. Guess
Any
who it is.
guesses on who it is?
This is
I don't
bonus.
think. I did never heard of this person. So
Then,
maybe that's a
How
hint.
recent? How recent are we talking here?
1993.
Yeah, no.
Then how about we just give the guy a charity case while we're at it?
We were born in
Yeah,
02,
I can't.
man.
I can't
Come
think
on.
of it off the top of my head.
Sam, if they get this, I mean, you got to just at least give them a point. I mean, that would be ridiculous.
We're not going to answer it because it's a different question later. All right.
Okay.
Holds the most 300-yard games in Maryland history.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He owns that one.
All right. 4 or 5. By the way, Emmett, he has thrown over 400 yards in Penn State in 2021, I want to say. It was on
That game, that game doesn't count.
The home game or the road game?
I'm just going off the record book.
It was the one he pulled a Bo Nix, the like 10 yards downfield, 70 yards after catch with Rakim Jarrett like 3 times.
Maybe. Okay. So you guys did pretty good in that game, 4 for 5. Next game isn't a points base, but it is kind of a fun little game. We're going to do a little back and forth draft. So you're going to get to build a Maryland jersey. Okay. So what we're going to do is you're going to get to choose a football helmet because there's no other helmets, right? We don't have a hockey team. You get to choose a jersey, get to choose like a short, a pant, whatever it may be. And then you get to choose, a certain type of like accessory that a team wears, anything like that. So it will go back and forth. Andrew, we'll give you starting rep.
Wait, so I can choose any.
You get to go.
What's your 1-1 pick here?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna put up like a. I feel like so generic if I had to say like the script like the script jerseys, but I mean, oh no, I'm gonna go Maryland 2002 basketball jerseys with the checkered stuff, the white with the little like with the state flag checkered all over them.
Ooh, okay, I like that. All right, so that's the top jersey. All right, Emmett.
My 1-1 pick is the throwback men's basketball uniforms they're going to wear this year.
Okay.
They actually are very
Those
cool.
are awesome.
Solid.
It's a good shout. It's a good shout.
All right, Emmett, you get to go 2-3.
Okay, I'm going to go with the white script terps helmets.
Damn it!
I got one right here.
Oh,
A very small one for people who can't
that's
see.
what Scott. That's like Scott
Yeah.
Hampton showed us.
This is the
Drew.
Deuce
Drew.
Vaughn helmet.
Drew Hampton. My apologies, Drew.
Andrew,
Andrew.
I don't know like what they are, but like Maryland's black cross helmets, the black ones,
I
they're
like
so sick.
the
Yeah.
chrome ones.
It's an
Yeah.
acceptable answer, I'll tell you.
I know it's like very generic black helmet, but like everyone knows what I'm talking about.
I think that's a really good answer. All right, Emmett, you got left like a short or pant and then an accessory.
Oh man, this is tough. Let's go with the Maryland baseball pants that have like the flag accent down the side.
Oh, good shout.
I think that's about as good as I can do in this category.
Well done.
Andrew, you're up. Or is it a snake trap?
Dude, I've got no idea. For a pant, I'm thinking of the sports that are played at the University of Maryland.
There's a really good option on the board for pant/shorts.
Current, I'll go the current women's basketball shorts. I have no idea.
Current basketball shorts.
I don't even know what they look like.
They just look like the men's basketball shirts.
I just got a major brain freeze.
I mean, that's the answer you put in. So, Sam,
Yeah.
what were you going to say there?
I think the black Maryland soccer shorts where they have like the faded flag on them. Great short.
I full on forgot soccer was a sport here.
And then Emmett, you want to take it out with an accessory?
Ooh, that's a good one actually.
Yeah.
This can be kind of anything. It's like a wild.
Yeah, and this is a tough one. Because I'm trying to think of like teams that have like some sort of unique situation. I got this. I don't think this counts as doubling up. Maybe it does, but I'm gonna go with the big hat that the baseball team wore after home runs.
That's exactly why we do these games right here.
Does that count? Even though I already have a helmet.
No, that absolutely counts. We'll throw it in the graphic like they're holding the big hat on top of their helmet.
Perfect. Love it.
Oh, no,
Andrew, pressure's on.
An accessory. Accessory's tough.
Oh man.
I don't know if Maryland like a turnover chain or something, maybe you can go to that. But
Honestly,
I was trying to think if the football
an
team had something.
accessory is such.
I was thinking
I have
about I was thinking about Special K's cape. I don't think that counts though because it's not worn by the team.
That's a great answer.
The decal, they can go decal on the helmets, maybe.
Can go decal. Can go decal on the helmets. That's. Can I go with that? Can I go with the decal on the helmet?
Yeah. You take that. I would say the state flag arm sleeve, whenever a player wears that, I think that's just that's a cool look.
I'm not. I disagree. I don't like the look.
Well, at least I had a pick ready to go. So
please do a Twitter poll because I'm pretty confident in that one.
I'm not. Mike, you want to give your votes, Brendan? I have mine. I would say Emmett kind of.
Yeah.
Oh no! I started off high and then I fumbled. I just didn't get the answer to the last two.
Mike, what are you? Mike and Brendan, what are you taking as like your only selection? We won't do our own, but
I'm pretty sure baseball used to have these nice looking camo uniforms. If I had to go back and look at the pictures.
They did. Yeah, they did. You're right.
I would take those.
bringing out the camo.
I don't.
I got a good shout for football when they played.
I'm thinking you're gonna steal mine. It's like the Navy uniforms. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Okay.
You take it away.
Thankfully, I got it in for you. Couldn't tell you what year it was. It was sometime in the last 10 years. They wore these like commemorative.
Maybe? 2014. I want to say.
I think it was like it's like the West Virginia game. Like that's actually.
Yeah, they had the Declaration of Independence on their uniforms.
Those were very cool, and that would be my pick.
That's awesome. Well, before we get to my favorite game, we got to do one more. We talked about all these transfers. People just can't wait to leave College Park, apparently. So we got to ask you, if you had to build a top 5, you can choose of players who either transferred away from Maryland or transferred into Maryland. Who are you taking? Just kind of name out 5. This isn't a draft. This is just both of you give your 5, and you can kind of mix and match. Try to keep it like 3 and 2 either way, but I'm interested to see.
Is it any sport?
Any sport.
And it can be
top 5, just like best players or what?
Yeah.
Best players, most memorable ones. It's
memorable.
liking.
Okay.
All right.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Talia. I think Talia is, an obvious pick. He's the starting quarterback for 4 years. He's broken all the records. I think he would be a good 1-1 pick. I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
I'm gonna give a very unpopular answer, but I think I have to. Reese, I'm gonna go Angel Reese. It's unpopular.
I like that.
It's a good shout.
Okay, we got Angel Reese. Andrew, you're back up.
I'm back up.
Snake.
I'm gonna stay negative. I'm gonna go Chop Robinson. Guys, a star at Penn State.
First round pick.
All right. I'll stay positive. Here we go. Logan Wisnauskas
Oh, dude, what a pick!
from Syracuse. He redshirted.
Who's Logan Wisnauskas?
Who's
Just look at the Maryland men's lacrosse record books.
Elite.
He's got them all.
do I stay negative or do I go positive? That's what I'm thinking about.
It's up to you. If you want to stay consistent.
No, I know. That's a thing. I got nothing.
Should have fed this guy the questions before the episode.
Honestly, you honestly should have given me the questions before the episode. No. Give me 15 seconds. 15 seconds, and then we can pivot over. The Spotify's gonna like shut you guys down because I'm bringing the pod down so hard.
Yeah, we might have to shut down Testudo Talk for good.
Transferred here his junior year. Played for the Magic, the Knicks, the Rockets.
All right, I'm
Slam
taking the
dunk
pick.
champ.
Yeah, I'm
Stevie
sorry.
franchise.
Stevie franchise.
Oh Jesus Christ, that's bad. That's really bad.
Brendan, he
That's really
transferred
bad.
here for his junior season, so he
That's really
absolutely
bad.
was the transfer.
That's really bad on my part. That's yeah.
All right,
that's-
well, Andrew, you're back on the clock because I'm
I mean,
taking
you
Steve.
did-
I'm back on the
I'm
clock.
taking Steve as my pick.
Oh no, this is not good. I'll go Jameer Young.
Hey, you got a pick
Yeah,
off.
pick.
Let's go.
Come on, let's go. Let's go. I'm him, baby.
All right, Emmett.
I'll go Nick LaRusso,
He was a transfer.
Villanova,
Villanova, yeah.
national RBI leader.
Really getting some variety here. I mean, I like it. But
I like to keep it,
you're staying pretty
Balanced.
positive though. That's 4 transfers in.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, pander a little bit here.
Wait, how do
I
you?
get the invite back on the show sometime in the future.
Oh, yeah, my invite is.
All right, Andrew. Finish it for
I'm not gonna get anybody off. I need a clock. No, I really need a clock.
All
All
right.
right, 15
10
seconds,
seconds.
starting now. All right,
think
I'll give
about
you
a first round pick in last year's draft. We talked about it.
It's getting so bad he might take Jordan Geronimo.
That's awesome.
For the women's team, Sam. Abby Myers.
Hey. All right, Emmett, your last pick.
All right. It's just I don't know who to pick with my last one.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with too obscure.
No, do obscure, please.
The viewers love it from what I've heard.
Do they? Are
Listeners,
they
rather.
telling you that?
That's, yeah. Spotify
All right.
comments let us know.
I'm gonna go with. I'm deciding between 2 field hockey players.
Oh, I like it.
I'm gonna go with Margot Lawn.
Oh, what a pick!
I believe she started her career at Louisville. It was between her and Danielle Van Rootselaar.
Oh,
Former terrific
You
Terps.
just gave away a great pick.
Wait, am I up? Because
I'm done, right? I have
no.
5 on the board, I think.
Wait,
that's
I don't have
good.
5.
Well done.
I have 4.
Yeah, Andrew's got
Oh
it.
yeah, you're 1 pick behind me.
I actually have a pick. I know, very surprising. It's a great pick. It's announced. Abby Bosco. It's a great pick.
That was a good pick.
Cornerstone of the Maryland women's lacrosse defense.
Great pick. Mike and Brendan, who would you go with one player that they didn't name? Can you think of one?
Rashid Suleiman.
I was literally gonna say him. Legend,
Solomon, really?
bro. He was a bucket.
I don't know if that's actually that good of a pick.
Do you know
All right,
why
Robert
he
Carter.
had to leave his former school?
Yeah, but he was still. That's. I thought Brendan was gonna take that because he was a Duke fan. Okay, so as we kind of move off that game, we're on to the best one yet. Trivia. This is gonna be both of you. It's open ended, so there's not. Both of you can
Oh,
answer.
God.
I'm gonna need quick though. We're gonna have to keep this a little pace here. Wink, wink, Andrew. I'm gonna give you 10 questions. This is gonna be a mix and match of the 3 sports we talked about, and then 1 special question. Okay. So for number 1, we ready?
Yep.
No.
The winner of this gets a very special prize at the end.
And I'll be tracking the scores, so
Oh wow.
no fabrication here. All right,
Emmett,
go for it, Sam.
congratulations on your prize.
This is
We'll see
actually
what kind of questions we do.
this is actually a very good. This is a good prize. So
Oh,
whoever wins, this is big time. And you're also going to get the 4. You both tied for Talia. We were going to count it up, but no votes there. Okay.
I'm just
Ready?
Yeah.
What was the first season that Maryland men's basketball made it to the Elite 8?
2001.
Emmett?
I feel like it was. Where did I know? Yeah, I think I'll just go with 2001 as well, but I feel like they might have under Lefty Drizel once.
Yep, your gut was right. 1972, 1973 made it. So, 0 for 1.
Close, very close.
Yep, casual 30 some years. Okay, next question. How many conference player of the years have Maryland men's basketball had? This is ACC and Big Ten.
In men's basketball?
Yep.
Who?
Five.
I've never had a Big Ten.
5. I think they had a few in the ACC.
You were really close, Andrew. It's 6.
Was it the amount of players? Or was it the amount of times a player has won it? Was that? I got the question wrong.
Amount of players.
Okay.
6. So close.
I was just excited because I assume Vasquez won one, Dixon won one, did Steve Blake win one? I'm just
Go even farther back, probably.
Yeah, it was further back than that. I can't remember who exactly. I think Len Bias won one, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
So, all right. Since 1980, how many top 10 NBA draft picks have the Terp basketball team had? And bonus point if you can say who the highest one was.
Joe Smith was number 1. Right?
Emmett, you're so close.
Was I wrong?
Joe Smith was the second overall pick.
Well, yeah, that's
Wait,
I meant. He was.
But wasn't Len Bias also 2 to the Celtics?
Yeah, I was about to say Len Bias was 2.
But he was pre I said the last, what did I say?
Since the last 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Since 1980.
Yeah, and
Oh, was it since
Bias went
1980 then?
Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah, well Bias was 2.
Yeah.
And then so was Joe Smith 2 overall.
Yeah.
So you both had the opportunity to get it. So we'll give you we'll give you 1 point, but you still neither of you have guessed how many picks they had.
It was top
Steve
10, you said, right?
Francis was also number 2.
Say, I can think of.
I'm gonna go with I may be so off here.
I'll be 5.
No, I think it's more than that. I'm gonna say since 1980, I'm gonna say 8.
Folks, they are struggling. 9.
Give me a break.
9 picks. Tough look, fellas. Tough look. What was the last game that was played in the Cole Fieldhouse? And who did they play?
Oof.
Oh
I know the
man,
answer for Comcast. I don't know the answer for Cole.
well, they're still playing there.
Okay, but I'm saying when it was I understand.
So it's
Wait, what question?
2002.
Is it the team and the year? Is that what you're looking for?
You can just say the team.
Georgia Tech.
So I'm stuck between 2 teams. I'm gonna put in
I don't think it's Duke or UNC.
Clemson, but I was thinking Duke for some reason.
I don't think it's Duke or UNC.
Boys, this is just a
Neither are correct, actually.
Yeah, it's Virginia, and Maryland won 112-92. They had 3 scorers with 20-plus points: Lonnie Baxter, Chris Wilcox, and Juan Dixon.
If you just get the current team to play 180 minutes, you could do that.
Brendan's going to take the next.
It's a very good point. All right, next question. I think we're tied still.
At 0.
What position did Randy White first play when he came to the University of Maryland?
I'm gonna just throw out a guess. We don't stall for too long.
Have any guesses here?
I'll say running back. I don't know.
I'll say. Wait. Was it what did he play at Maryland or what did he play in the NFL?
When he played at Maryland, when he first arrived.
So not defensive lineman. Tight end.
You guys literally are coming in between on answers.
Dancing around it.
It's a fullback.
Oh my god.
I might have made these questions too hard. You
No,
guys,
We could call a halfback, maybe.
yeah, I was gonna say half point maybe, just so we have somebody on the board. What is the committee?
Nah, that would be kind of BS if I got the point for that. I think.
Yeah.
We're gonna be here through the night.
The fullback actually existed back then too.
Fullback's a great position. I'm a huge fan of fullback. We should work that.
Sean
Question-
Greeley.
All right. Next question. Who was Maryland's first starting black QB and what year was that in?
I'm gonna say 19.
Okay, well,
62.
ooh.
I don't know the player, so I'm a bad Maryland historian. But for the year, I'll go 1971. Full guess.
Oh my
Oh,
Andrew.
That's 1970. I thought you were gonna say it.
Oh,
yeah, you were so
Brutal.
close.
brutal.
All right. We're going to round it up to 7 questions. Last question here. Who has thrown the most interceptions in Maryland football history?
Talia?
I'm gonna assume it wasn't Scalia.
No, I think they're giving us a laugh at the end. I think it's Talia.
It's possible. It's possible you might be getting that prize. I'll go with Frank Reich.
No, definitely not.
Good old Dick Shiner.
Dick Shiner. You guys,
35
this is tough.
interception.
You guys scored 0, so I'm gonna give you 2 more. This is gonna have to be rapid fire though. Who is the longest? Which player holds the all-time record in women's basketball history for most 3-pointers made? It's a recent player. That's your hint.
Chrissy Tolliver?
Emmett?
What do you say? All-time 3-pointers made
In a season.
in a season?
Mhm.
I feel like if he says it's recent, it would be more recent than that.
It's recent enough. It's within the last 15 years.
Guys, it was rapid fire. Let's go.
Yeah,
Okay.
honestly, disqualify him.
I'll go with. I don't know. I don't know who it is.
Taylor Mike Sell.
Really?
He transferred, yeah. Okay, this is the last question.
What? Wait. Time out. Wait. What if we both get it wrong? I think we need to keep on
And
going.
neither of you get the prize.
No.
We
That's not
get
fair.
kicked off the Zoom call.
Okay.
Mike's just gonna remove you at this point.
What was each of your first gamers as a full-time beat writer for Testudo Times?
You can get multiple points here. What is the game? Who they played? What was the final score? So 3 points.
Wait,
at
wait.
mistake.
As a full time beat, I want to. It's as a full time beat writer, correct?
Beat writer. Testudo's Times archive system
Wait,
made it
I'm,
impossible.
try-
So
I'm
up-
trying. I'm trying to think.
Can get 3 points here.
Who did women's soccer play first game last
It was
year?
Maryland men's lacrosse,
Both for visual, they both
and they
had their
beat.
hands in their-
No, wait. Maryland women's soccer. Was it a tie? I think it was a tie. Was
Well,
it?
I know men's lacrosse won because they won every game that year.
Oh, was it a tie? Who? Navy was game 2. I remember that.
Great question, Sam. What a way to end it.
Wait,
I'm gonna say the men's lacrosse team won
Gee, what a
15-6 or something like that.
who'd they
No,
play?
you need the who they played.
Well, I know, but I'm trying to get points.
You
Wait,
have 1 point. You know the sport.
You have 1
so
point. Congrats.
Wait,
Sam.
I know. Wait, I know.
The score was incorrect, though.
I know the second game of the season. Why do I know the second game? Of the
I
season?
know, me
It's
too.
4-1.
I know Maryland played Navy. I don't know why I don't know the second game. I don't know the first. Well, they tied Maryland was talking. They tied the first 6 games of the season. I know that.
You could say that about any game in the past 2 years, and you probably got
That's
that one.
actually so true. That's so true. Wait, if Navy was number 2, first game was home. Georgetown wasn't first. That was later in the year.
Oh,
Mason
man.
wasn't
You guys
first.
would stink at Jeopardy. I want you to know.
Damn, shut
Yes,
up.
we would. We
Now,
would. We
now I'm
would.
getting annoyed. Wasn't
It's okay. So I
all
like
right,
I can.
I'm locking in my guess. I'm locking in my guess.
Wasn't Princeton? It
I'm gonna
was.
go, don't make a face. I'm gonna go with the Terps played 0-0 tie against American.
Okay, Emmett.
I'm gonna say Maryland defeated. Oh my God! I can't believe I can't remember this. This wasn't even that long ago. I'm gonna say Maryland beat.
I don't think it's
I know it wasn't Towson, but I'm just gonna say Towson.
Fellas,
15-6.
brutal performance.
It wasn't American. How?
Both
No,
got 1 point.
It was not American.
You both got 1 point. We'll go with Emmett first. Emmett's cross team did
Oh.
win, which is an amazing guess by you, considering they went undefeated. They actually won 21-13, and they played High Point.
Oh my God! I remember that game.
Wait.
Yes, I
Oh.
remember that now. And High Point. Oh, I'm not gonna get into all the details. No one wants to hear that. No one
Now,
wants to hear about Asher Nolting.
Emmett or Andrew, on your side, you got it that they drawed.
Yeah.
Well done.
True.
They They tied 1-1.
Okay.
And they played Temple. Temple was the game. They played Navy in the second, like you said, and they played Towson in their first exhibition game. But
I know why it was. Story I can't tell here, but now I know why it was Temple.
Megan Ryan Nemzer's debut.
Yeah.
Fellas, the prize was a free Under the Shell T-shirt.
Oh, we need one more question. We need one more question.
Unfortunately,
Mike, we need one more question. Mike, we need one more question.
All right, we're gonna get on to college football picks for bowl season right now.
Oh, boo.
Fellas, you lost your chance. Maybe we'll do it.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see who does better in picks.
Yeah,
Maybe
in picks.
We'll
Maybe
consider.
Oh, there you go.
Depending on how my wallet's feeling, we'll see how that looks. Fellas, we're going to get into college football bowl picks. You guys have talked a lot, hypothetically, if you actually knew the answers. So me, Brendan, and Mike are going to go first here. Our leader is going to start. Mike, tell us the records.
So it actually does not matter what happens this week because Sam has clinched the championship.
He's up by 6 wins. Are you kidding? Wait,
He's up by six wins.
So we can tie.
So you and me are tied at 18.
Rooney's is calling my
He
name.
has 25 wins.
And I have
25 and 17.
Oh, this is
You're
ridiculous.
18, 23 and 1.
So I will get to go first. I have my picks. It's going to be an awesome bowl season, so hopefully these hit well. I'm going to start it with Boise State plus 2.5 versus UCLA. Honestly, I love Boise State's field. That's why I'm going with it. I got Missouri plus 3 against Ohio State. Ohio State's quarterback and wide receiver entered Maserati Marv. Won't be playing most likely. So I like Missouri in that one. My third pick is going to be Michigan minus 1.5 against Bama. I think people are riding Nick Saban's wave a little too hard. Last, I'm going to go Arizona minus 3 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's quarterback transferred again. I'm going to take Penn State, Ole Miss under 48.5. I love the Nittany Lions defense. Can't say the same about their offense. Drew Aller stinks. And then my last pick of the season. It's been a dominating year, folks. You should have followed me all year long. Don't listen to any of the rest of these clowns. I'm going to take LSU minus 10.5 versus Wisconsin. It just means more in the SEC, baby.
All right, I guess I'm up trying to beat Mike for second place. Whatever. Take JMU minus 3 against Air Force. SMU minus 10.5 against BC. Ole Miss plus 4.5 against Penn State. Maybe an unpopular pick. Florida State plus 14 against Georgia. I think Florida State's going to win that game. Oregon minus 15.5 against Liberty. And then Alabama plus 1.5 against Michigan.
Brendan, will you be going to the Fenway Bowl?
No chance. Couldn't pay me to watch SMU BC on a cold December day.
I can guarantee I'm going to get second place here. It's been a lucky season for Brendan with that push. So first up, Penn State, Ole Miss over 49.5. Iowa, Tennessee under 36.5 in the Citrus Bowl. Oklahoma State plus 3.5 versus Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl. Miami favored by 3.5 versus Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl. UCLA, I'm going against Sam here. UCLA favored by 3 against Boise State. And then Troy favored by 6.5 versus Duke in the Birmingham Bowl.
Thank you for telling us which bowl it is, Mike. The listeners will really appreciate that.
They're really going to appreciate the corporation names. We love it. All right, Emmett and Andrew, what do you guys got?
Are we combining here? I can take one. I can take them all here. I have 6 down.
Yeah, put them all out there.
All right. I'm fading you a little bit, Sam. I know that your record is good. I'm taking Bama. I'll take them straight up because I got 1.5 here. I'll take Bama straight up. I like them against Michigan. They're a little bit depleted on the O-line. I like Bama's defense. I got FSU plus 14.5 against Georgia in the opt-out bowl because I like Florida State's defense, and I don't think I think a lot of key players are going to be missing. So I like them to keep that one close. I also have Ohio State covering against Missouri just because, I know their quarterback is opting out. I'm not sure that's actually that much of a downgrade for them. I'm not a huge Cal McCord fan, and I think they'll be fine against Missouri. We saw it like in the Rose Bowl when some of their players opted out. They were just fine against Utah a couple of years ago. Clemson minus 7 against Kentucky. I just think people are down on Clemson more than they should be. I think Clemson's really good. I have Boise covering against UCLA as well. So we had that one in common, Sam. Boise playing really well. They just won the Mountain West with an interim coach that's now the full-time head coach, and they have a really good defense. So I like them. Under 47 in NC State and Kansas State. Neither team has a quarterback right now. Both their starting quarterbacks are in the transfer portal. I I guess Brennan Armstrong is starting for NC State. I like the under in that one. And then Texas, Washington, points. Give me the over.
Like it. That was electric. Andrew?
Emmett's got my picks. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Well,
nothing.
Emmett, by a sad default, I think that means you would technically win an Under the Shell shirt. So we'll have to see what might be arriving in your mail for the holiday time. But
well, after my picks, I should be able to pay for it myself.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. But another holiday gift you're all going to receive is listening to this great, terrific terp. Brendan, it's the holiday season. You're going to have to deliver here. What do you got for us this week?
I'm not sure. Well, thank you for that introduction, Sam. That was electric. I'm not sure how much you guys usually listen to the Terrific Terp, but I got a really exciting one for you guys today. So you get a live read. All right. This week's Terrific Terp was Sasha Swarovski's first ever first team All-American. Leo Cullen earned the honor in 1977. And that same year, he was the third ever Terp in Maryland men's soccer history to win ACC Player of the Year. Cullen grew up in Minnesota, but came to College Park early on in Swarovski's career to help him build up the men's soccer program. While at Maryland, he spent time playing on some of the U.S. national teams. He was captain of the under-18 team and under-20 team, so he brought experience to the Maryland back line, where he helped the Terps make the NCAA tournament all 4 years, and where he earned all ACC honors each of his final 3 seasons. Cullen left Maryland in 1988 before he graduated Maryland to join the MLS. He was drafted first overall to the Miami Fusion, played there in 2001 when he joined the New England Revolution. He left the Revs to come back to Maryland in 2004 to finish his degree in economics. And while he was at Maryland finishing his degree, he served as an assistant volunteer coach. And then he went back to the MLS. He joined the Colorado Rapids in 2005, and then once again came back to the University of Maryland to become a coach. During that 2006 season, while he was in the area, he appeared a couple times for DC United in some emergency situations when they needed a defender. He was an assistant at Maryland from 2006 to 2009. And if you're a fan of Maryland men's soccer, you'll know that that's during the 2008 season when they won the NCAA championship. He joined Army as an assistant coach in 2010, where he teamed up with a former Maryland teammate who is now their head coach. And Cullen has stayed around soccer as an agent and advisor, and this week's Terrific Terp.
I couldn't. He loved College Park, unlike some of the football.
Came back 3 or 4 or 5. He transferred back in a couple times. I mean, he couldn't.
Yeah, can I change my transfer Mount Rushmore? I want to include that guy.
I love it. And I love Terrific Terp every week, just like you should love listening to Under the Shell every week. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on social media at the same tags. You can also listen to these two boys if you want to hear bad trivia takes, but great Maryland sports takes at Testudo Talk. And on Twitter at Emmett Siegel _ and at Andrew Chodes _ They do great work as Testudo Times. We're super happy to be able to work with them. It was a pretty fun crossover episode, guys. And for all the listeners out there, we're all 5 of us are out in the world of Maryland sports. So you know where to find your news. You enjoy the holidays, enjoy the bowl game if you're listening, and have a good night.
Guess what? You've got Under the Shell podcast. Nobody does it better.